All right, I'm going to try and tell a story about what I've learned about bullies in my life. The old man was a bully when he was drunk, and it put a lot of stress in the house. And it quite literally made my mom and my sister unhinged and a little crazy. Mom would say things to me like, "You're stupid, you're worthless, and I wish you were never born," regularly, and a whole host of other things that no mother should ever say to her child. My sister would grab common household items when we'd get home from school and no one else was around, show them to me, and say, "This is what I'm going to beat you with today." Being attacked by her with a coat hanger from behind a doorway or around a corner happened regularly. As a matter of fact, I got so good at taking the pain that I'd hardly react because I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of knowing just how bad that shit hurt. Being chased through the house with the longest kitchen knife in the butcher block happened semi regularly. No little kid should have to experience that kind of fear that early in life, but that's just the way it was, and I didn't know any different. I remember the day well when I decided that I wasn't going to be afraid anymore. That if she got me, she got me, and that's just the way it was. But I wasn't going to be afraid, and I wasn't going to let whatever was inside her that made her do that rule my life and my existence. My experiences got me in a lot of fights as a kid in school because I never agreed with that kind of behavior. And if somebody was going to pick on somebody else while I was around, that wasn't going to fly. And I fought a lot of people's battles for them and ended up in the office in front of the principal, the assistant principal, or whatever teacher, and it always ended the same way. "Eric, we don't agree with what you did, but we understand why you did it." And mom and dad very seldom got called because of it. But that's not what this story is about. This story is about a trip that I made to Alabama to try to help a girl that I knew while I was in the military who had a broken leg. And every time she'd get in an argument with her husband, he would attack her leg, and what should have been a 3-month stint on a pair of crutches was approaching a year when she finally was told me about it. So, me being the smuck that I am, I agreed to go down there and try to help her out. Well, what I didn't know is that the end of this cul-de-sac in this trailer park in Alabama was full of tweakers who were all smoking ice, which, for those of you who don't know, is meth. And it was bizarro world. But that's a subject for another video. Her husband was a typical bully because as soon as somebody showed up who would challenge him on the way that he was acting, he didn't act that way anymore. So things started progressing relatively quickly, and her leg was on the mend pretty good. However, the drug guy and his cousin were a different story. They showed up one day flipping over furniture and yelling and screaming about somebody that owed him money that wasn't even there. So I told them to get the hell out. And for some reason or another, they took offense to that. And they thought that I was going to be like everybody else in the neighborhood who was under their thumb and just keep my head down and not say a damn thing. Well, that isn't what happened. And when they challenged me, I accepted their challenge. And I took them both on. And I had the main drug guy up against the wall, getting ready to take care of business, when his cousin hit me from behind with a crutch. Fortunately, at least for the first strike, it was an aluminum crutch. And he laid it in flat like they do in the wrestling programs. And even though it bent around my back in a half a U shape, it didn't really hurt that much. Well, all of my attention was with the guy that I had up against the wall, so I merely turned around, grabbed the crutch, and threw it on the floor. And it was turning back to light this other guy up when he picked the crutch back up, turned it sideways, and swung it so that the handle hit me in the back, separating two of my ribs. And I don't know how many of you have ever had separated ribs, but that shit hurts. Well, that got my attention, and I let the first guy go, and was going after the cousin who hit me with the crutch. Well, he ran for the door right away because he couldn't believe that I didn't go down. And what I didn't realize at the time was that half the neighborhood had gathered in front of the door, and there were probably 10 to 15 people trying to crowd in a doorway to see what was going on. Well, I'm fighting people off just behind this guy. I damn near got him when I started running out of wind, and he just barely got away. Well, out comes his cousin, the main drug guy, through the crowd, who has to go by me to get out. Well, I got a pretty good lick in on him, and just as the cops are showing up, it's turning into a shouting match, and they're yelling and screaming that I'm crazy and this and that. And I said, damn right, I'm an ex-wrestler. I don't know when to quit. And if you're going to challenge me, boys, it's on. Well, to make a long story short, they were going to charge the guy who swung the crutch with attempted murder. But I declined because at the time I didn't realize quite how bad I was hurt, and I was going to deal with that shit myself because that's how I am. As far as I'm concerned, the law is for people who can't handle their own problems. But that's a little off topic. But this is how I know that Antifa and the people who say they're fighting for the marginalized groups of the world are full of shit. They're just people who want to dominate other people. They're just people who would rather hurt someone than try to take a logical position, than try to debate their way to a reasonable solution. They would just assume be violent because they don't know anything else, because they were more than likely bullied when they were younger, and now they think it's their turn. And this is where we as regular people need to accept their challenge, need to stand up against what they're doing, and let them know that there's people that are going to stand up to them, and they're not going to get away with acting like that. This has been our biggest mistake and our biggest failing as a society, as people across the world, because the good people of the world have programmed themselves, or someone else has programmed them to be humble, to be forgiving of unacceptable behavior, when we're the ones who lose out in the end by taking that attitude. If some bully's gonna throw a challenge down, challenge accepted. And when and if that attitude is ever taken on a worldwide basis, there won't be no problems, because it'll be like everybody having a gun, and ain't nobody gonna start no shit when everybody's armed with proper defenses, meaning their mind, their mouth, and their might if necessary. But that isn't the way it's been, and that's why things have progressed the way it has. And we really ought to do something about that. Ain't that right, Harley? Because Harley was a bully too. And she isn't anymore, because she knows that there's somebody around that'd be more than happy to whoop her ass if she wants to step out of line and act like that. Y'all take care.